My name is Søren Bjerg. My in-game name is Bjergsen, and I play mid lane for TSM.
What impact do you see non-endemic brands like Gillette having on the eSport landscape?
Oh man. I think it can only influence it positively, because when big sponsors like Gillette comes in, it makes everything seem more real to the general public. If I talk to my dad or my cousins or a random person on the street and I talk about video games, they think, oh, you play video games, you're such a nerd. And then I mention like, oh, I'm sponsored by Gillette or these mainstream brands that they know and use. It really opens up their eyes that I'm not just sitting I'm not like a basement dweller nerd. It's actually a real profession.
You're like, no, I play video games for a living. No, I really do. How does it feel having made the big move to North America, and how are you settling in?
I moved to the US about 4 years ago when I was 17 years old. So initially it was a really big change. I still spoke decent English because I played so many video games. I played Diablo and World of Warcraft and League, and I pretty much picked up English mainly from that. But I still had to use Google Translate for a lot of stuff when I didn't really understand what was going on. But I've been with TSM here the whole time, and they've always been just really supportive and helping me out in any way I could to get situated and learn to live life by myself.
I know you've been out here for 4 years, but when you did move out here, what was the biggest culture shock so far, if anything?
Biggest culture shock. I think the most memorable story that I have is, I think when we got delivery ramen to our house, and I'd never tried ramen before. So it has the noodles and the meat, and then it had the broth separately. And I just picked up the noodles because I didn't know, I thought the broth was like a side, and then I tried to eat the noodles by themselves, and I hated it, and I said, I hate ramen, I don't understand why you eat it. And I threw it out, and then I looked at my teammates, and they were all eating it in the soup, and it just made a lot more sense. So I definitely learned a thing or two there.
Looking back to Europe, do you think the EU LCS can ever match what we're seeing from the North America LCS this year in terms of talent, infrastructure, and hype?
I think EU is definitely, lacking behind when they're not franchised, and you can see a lot of the talent are coming over or looking to come over to NA because of just better structure, better living, obviously better pay as well. But I think one positive that EU has is that it seems like they always have just more and more talent coming up. The EU servers just have a lot more players than the NA server does, so naturally they are going to have more talent. And to some degree, I think their culture on the server is more serious, and more people care about becoming a professional player and doing their best, whereas in NA it seemed more focused on maybe becoming an entertainer or streamer or YouTuber. I see more people having that kind of goal, which is fine. But I think that's why EU is producing a lot of talent. So they are behind in terms of, I would say, their league overall and the infrastructure. But then again, they have a lot of talent to make up for it. So,
what do you think of the new rune system?
I think it's fun to kind of shake things up, but I think Riot is trying to achieve something that might not be possible in the way that they feel like you should have so many choices every single game, and there's always a new choice. And I think there's always going to be minor choices, and there were in the old system, but it's going to be almost impossible for them to reach a point where you have 4 options that are legit. There's going to be a best one or 2 best ones, and that's what people are going to figure out in this rune system, in the rune system previously. But one thing that I really, really do like is that you can change your runes and just go into game and make your rune page when you pick your champion. So you don't have to make a bunch of rune pages before, or you need to spend a lot of IP on runes and rune pages. I like that I can go into a game and think, I want to play Gangplank, and then I can just make a Gangplank page and I can play him. I think it's better for us pros, it's just better for everyone playing the game. So it's probably my favorite change.
After all the changes with franchising and roster swaps, who do you think will be the top tier teams in this North America split?
I don't think much will change. I think we'll be at the top, and I think that C9, CLG, TL will be still really strong. I can't obviously tell you exactly how strong, because on paper some teams may look really strong, but it's really about how well they work together and play together. Of the new teams, I think 100 Thieves has a lot of veterans, and they can do really well in the beginning. but I don't see them perhaps doing well in the long term. They just have a lot of players that have been playing for a really long time, but I think that it's good for some teams to have a kind of breath of fresh air. Like we have Mike Young, and he's so giggly and happy and motivated with everything, and I think that helps the team a lot. And Clutch Gaming as well, I think these are all kind of middle pack teams that can potentially go to the top, and it's just hard to say exactly which one.
Do you think we'll see much of Oren or Zoe this split, and what are their strengths and weaknesses in pro play?
In their current state, yes, but they have been nerfed as of pretty much today, so I don't know how much those nerfs will affect them. For Oren, I think his early game might be slightly weak, but then again, it's also really safe at the same time. I mean, you can just buy items wherever you are. And then I think Oren's biggest strength is just his ultimate has such a low cooldown, and it's just an insanely long range. Anytime there's an immobile champion on the enemy team, you're never ever safe against Oren. So he just seems way overtuned. It's not even that the champion's kit is too strong, because he was released and he was just garbage, but you can take any champion with any kit, and if you make his numbers ridiculous enough, he's obviously going to be powerful. And Zoe's also looking too powerful at the moment, and they've tuned her down a bit, but I think we're still going to see Zoe in competitive play. She's just, I think champions that are more fun, people are going to gravitate more towards and be good enough at them to make them competitively viable. So even if they nerf Zoe, I think certain players like me and other mids will just already have played hundreds of games and be at a high enough level to pull her out.
We'll probably still see bans on them, right? Because players don't like having to deal with rapid changes to heroes last minute.
At All-Stars, I'm sure we'll see a lot of Oren and Zoe bans, yeah.
What advice would you give to an aspiring, high schooler who's really good at League and wants to go pro?
I think the biggest thing is not to drop everything in your life. Don't stop hanging out with your friends, spending time with family, and drop out of school until you've really made it. Don't sacrifice anything else in your life until you've really made it. But just make it your goal that when you have free time, maybe instead of going out, instead of, any of these other things that you also want, you have to be able to put all those other hobbies aside, or partying or whatever, and spend that time playing, and not just playing League, but actually training and practicing, because that's really what it is. It's not just, in the beginning, I think a lot of young people think it's just the hours. I play 13 hours, I play 16 hours, but I mean, that really doesn't matter. It's about how much effective practice do you have and how critical are you of yourself when you play.